We're going to go ahead and get started. We want to thank everyone for joining us for today's Grants.gov webinar session on Workspace. We hope that when we're done with this session, everyone will become a Workspace wizard. Or if not quite there, we hope that you are better off than you were when we first started the session. So we're going to kick off with the agenda. And I'll let you know a little bit about what it is that we're going to cover. First things first, we'll go over a few rules. We'll also talk about the retirement of the legacy PDF application package. We'll talk about the benefits of Workspace, and then we'll get into the fun part with a live demonstration of the Workspace, and we'll go over and we'll leave a little time at the end for question and answers and feedback from those of you who have joined us today. So let's get started with a little bit of rules. I'll let you know what it is that you can do to help us make this session successful. We want to make sure that at all times that your mics and your phones are muted so we don't get any feedback. We also ask that if you want to ask questions that you type those in the Q&A box off to the right. And if you want to just provide general comments, that you type those in the chat box that is also to the right. And in the event that we are short on time and we're not able to get through all of the questions and answers, feel free to reach out to us at community@grants.gov, and we will take care of your questions in that manner. We also want to note that this session is being recorded, and that for those of you, I see that there are quite a few of you who have dialed in on the phone line. If you would do us a favor and identify yourselves, associate your phone number with your login, and if you take a quick second, a glance up at the top of your screen to the left of help, there's an I that looks like a question block, and if you click on that I, it will take you to a screen that says dial in details. If you click view info, there it will tell you how to associate your phone number with your login, and we just want to make sure that we capture that so we'll know who's dialed in and who's joining us for today's session. With that being said, don't forget, if you have questions, feel free to ask them anytime in the chat box. Mute your lines, and we will have a good demonstration and discussion to follow shortly. So I'll kick it over to Kavitha and team to get started on the demo and talk a little bit about the retirement of the legacy PDF package.
Thank you, Nicole. Let's take a short poll before we proceed to the next part of our webinar. You will be presented with a question shortly. Please take a few seconds to answer, and we will take the look at the results shortly after that. Okay, it looks like some of you have used Workspace before, and as Nicole said earlier, hopefully this webinar will be helpful and you will be at a better place than when you started off. Our legacy PDF application package has been Grants.gov's primary application method for over a decade now. This application method will be phased out on December 31st, 2017. Further details related to this retirement are available in the notices section of our website. Also, if you already have a system-to-system implementation with Grants.gov, you can continue to use that to make future submissions even after this retirement. Over the years, we've heard several problems with the legacy PDF application package: inability to reuse the forms, unable to concurrently work on multiple forms, and the validation being towards the tail end of the application process are some of the few problems. All these problems are resolved with Workspace. This is our newest application method, where you can collaboratively complete and submit grant applications. Multiple users can work on forms at the same time, and these users can be from within your organization. Also, you can collaborate with users external to your organization. You'll have multiple ways to fill in the forms, which we'll get to in a bit in our live demonstration, and validation is brought upfront in here as well. We'll talk a little bit about it as well in the demo. So as part of today's live demonstration, we will create a workspace, add some participants to the workspace, complete some application forms within the workspace, and submit. Let me just come out of the presentation for now, and we'll log into Grants.gov to proceed with the demonstration. I'm going to log in as an applicant and try to search for an opportunity that is currently existing in Grants.gov. Search grants option, most of you are familiar with this, provides you with opportunity number, provides you with the opportunities that you can search for and apply. Here is a test opportunity that I've created earlier, and we can get to the opportunity details by clicking on the opportunity number. This is all the information that this funding opportunity has to offer, and clicking on the package will take you to the list of available workspace packages. Also, next to each package, you will see a couple of actions, a preview and apply. Clicking on the preview action will allow you to take a look at the different forms that the agency has requested for you to fill in order to submit to this application package. The download instructions button up here allows you to see the package instructions provided by the grantor at any point in time. Here is an online help question mark. If you are using Grants.gov, you are familiar with this question mark sprinkled all over our screen. Clicking on the question mark at any page will take you to context-sensitive help article, where you can get further details related to that particular page. Also, the form names available on this model will show you a preview of each of the forms, which can help you determine the kind of information that is required to fill in the forms. Once you determine that this is the application package that you would like to apply to, you can simply click on the apply action to continue with the application process. This in turn brings you to a subscription page where you can subscribe to future updates related to this application package. Going forward, you will be presented with two options in order to apply to this application package. Option 1 is to apply using Workspace, which we'll cover in depth in today's demonstration. Option 2, however, is the download legacy application package that we have talked about earlier, and this is the option that is retiring at the end of this year on December 31st, 2017. Again, if you are using a system-to-system implementation with Grants.gov, you can continue to submit using that method. Now let's get on to the first topic in our live demo, creation of a workspace. In order to create the workspace, you will have to provide an application filing name and click on the Create Workspace button. Clicking on that Create Workspace button in turn brings me to the Manage Workspace page, where you can collaborate and continue to fill in the forms and submit. Notice that the top section of the workspace will show a progress bar, and creation of the workspace is the first step in the overall application process. So the created checkbox is turned green, and it helps you to identify where you stand in the overall application process. Also, when I created the workspace, I became the owner of this workspace. That information is available here for access to all the participants that have access to this workspace. There are several other key details available in the top section of the workspace. Some of them are related to your package, as in package closing date. As it comes closer to the deadline, this date becomes very important. You have some organization details, including the SAM registration expiration date, as well as your DUNS number available here. At this time, you have a few options to fill this workspace and submit. A basic way to do this would be to download all the PDFs and email it to the respective users that you would like to fill in. At that time, they can fill in the forms and you can upload them back to the workspace in order to check the application for errors and submit. If you'd like to do the subforms using that option, you will have to add the subform rows and then email the subforms after downloading them from the workspace. Again, doing this is a very basic way and it does not use Workspace to its fullest potential. But notice that this option, even though it's basic, provides you an advantage over today's legacy PDF. You can concurrently work on multiple forms in this way, and the validation can also be performed upfront. A better way to use the workspace to its fullest potential would be to add the participants who would fill in the forms directly into the workspace. That gives them access to adding any other information that they would like to share with the workspace and fill in the forms using the several forms that are available here. So let's add a few participants to our workspace. This is our topic 2 on the demo. To add participants, you'll have to click on the Participants tab, and once you are here, you can see the list of current participants in the workspace. Since I created the workspace, I'm already a participant of this workspace. I can add additional people from my workspace organization by clicking on this button available here. This page will show you a list of users that are currently associated with your organization in Grants.gov. Notice that some of these users have AOR roles and others have a Manage Workspace role, and some do not have any roles at all. We can add all these users to the workspace and they can equally contribute in filling of the forms at any point. However, the submission of the workspace can only happen by the person who has the AOR role. Once I save the participants, you can see them available in the workspace participant list. Notice that any users with Manage Workspace role have a Make Owner link available, and you can transfer the ownership to those users at any point in time. Access to these people can be managed using the Manage Access button. For example, Barry here he's an intern and does not need a budget form access. So you can simply change his access level to non-budget forms and save, and this in turn prevents him from accessing any budget information. Any form with the name budget in the form name is considered as a budget form, and the rest of the forms are considered as non-budget. Now that we've added some people from our organization, I'll show you how you can add a person external to your organization. You can do that by clicking on the Add by Username button available in the Participants tab. Let's say I would like to add John Smith to the workspace. I'll have to first identify John Smith's username by contacting him, and this will be the Grants.gov username that John Smith will log into. You can simply search for that username in your workspace that you'd like to add him, and Workspace in turn prompts you back with the name and the email of the username that you specified. That this is the user that you'd like to add, you can specify the form access and then add the user to that workspace. In this example, I would like John to only work on the subforms. So the minute I click the subforms only option, the different subforms that are available in this workspace are displayed here, and I can provide him access to one of the subforms. Once you save the participant to the workspace, an email notification is sent to the workspace participant specifying that they've been granted access to the workspace. Users can then log into Grants.gov to access the workspace page and start filling in the form. That brings us to our third topic, completing forms. So if you remember the preview we saw earlier, these are the different forms that were part of the preview where the agency defined some of them as required to complete the application and some of them were deemed optional. The checkbox that is available on the left-hand side will allow you to determine required versus optional, as well as clicking on the checkbox includes an optional form into the package. You can fill in the forms in 3 different ways in Workspace. The first way would be the download and the upload, which downloads a PDF form like very similar to the legacy PDF that you are currently used to. Alternatively, you can fill in the forms using the web form option, which will give you access to the enhanced online web forms. The third way to fill in a form would be to reuse the form information from an existing workspace. Let's start with the 424. Grants.gov recommends you to fill in the 424 first so that any information can be forward populated to other forms. In this case, let's look at the actions that are available here. The lock action helps you to prevent from updating the form when another user is accessing it. Workspace provides you prompt all through the update, specifying you to either recommending you to either lock the form or unlock the form based on the situation that you're in. Let me first start by reusing the 424 from an existing workspace where I feel like it's closer match. Notice that the reuse prompts you with a message that clearly states that the current data will be overwritten. I would like to proceed as this is a blank form, and I would like to reuse the data from an existing workspace. So this in turn links me to a reuse workspace form page where I can search for different workspaces where this form has been used earlier. The preview option available here can help you take a look at the data inside the form and allow you to determine whether it's the right fit or not. There are a couple of other options on this page like the last updated date time, which can help you pick a recently updated form. I'm going to use, once you determine the form, you have to click on the select action to reuse the form data. Notice that the form status is updated to past and that information is available in this form. At this time, I would like to make a few tweaks on this form to match for this workspace. I can use the web form link to click on to get to the online version of this form. Notice that the data that we used earlier is already pulled into this web form and it is available for edit. I would like to change the title of the applicant project in here, and we can easily do that by clicking on the section header on the left navigation and change the information. Notice that the fields in the online form have red asterisks when they are required. Online forms are 508 compliant, and you can see field level instructions as you move from field to field. Any invalid data entered into the field reflects in like an error message instantly when you exit the field. The check for errors button helps you identify any errors that are currently available in the form, and clicking on the error message will take you to a field where you can fix the problem. Also, any current calculations continue to happen in web forms as well. There is a save button here which will allow you to save the data once you are done making the updates. Web forms also come equipped with an autosave feature which is constantly saving the form data every 5 minutes. This information can be used to recover data in case of a system crash. Now that I'm finished working on this form, I can click on the check for errors button to ensure that there are no errors on the form. We can then close the form, and this is the Workspace prompting the unlock. When you click on a web form link, the Workspace determines to lock the form for you, expecting that you are making an edit. As you exit the form, if you continue to want to make updates, you would say no and keep the lock still assigned to you. Since I'm done with this form, I'm going to click on yes and move on to the next form. The next form is a budget form. So let's use the web form option to fill this form. When I click on the web form link, the web form version of this form opens up and I can key in details as needed. Once you finish completing the form, you can check for errors, ensure that there are no errors, and save the data within the form. Once the form data is saved successfully, we can close the form and unlock it. Also, notice that when you lock a form, you can see the locked by status available here with the name of the user who locked it. This will allow the other participants to reach out to the person in case of an update that they would like to make. Let's fill in the key person expanded form as a PDF. When I click on the download action, Workspace prompts me with a locked form request. It recommends me to lock the form if I plan to update, which in this case I am planning to update, so I will lock the form. And once the PDF is downloaded, we can notice that the forward population from the 424 occurs on this one. So this is the Workspace form in the PDF view, and you can see that the first section of it comprises of the opportunity and package details and followed by the applicant and workspace details. So the PDF has the forward population already established with data from the 424. At this time, I see that there is a required field and I can add a bio sketch for this particular form, save this information, and then upload it back to the Workspace. Once I save the form, I can come back to the Workspace and click on the upload action in order to upload the form. You simply choose the form that you'd like to upload and click on the upload button to start the upload process. Upload continues to run additional validation at this point to identify any attachments with inconsistent file naming convention or virus scans. Also, I will be prompted with the unlock option in this case. So the final sub-award form, we can try reusing it from one of the existing workspaces and see how the data flows into the subforms. Here is a sub-award budget that was filled in earlier for another form. I'm planning to reuse this data. So once I have reused the sub-award form, if you get to the manage subforms, you can see that the subforms are copied here as well. Also, the view subform participants will allow you to see that participants that are currently having access to these subforms. Notice that Barry is not in this list as we specified that he would only have non-budget access. Clicking on the web form link at this time will help you get to the web form version of the budget form. Notice that the left navigation is heavily enhanced in order to show you different budget periods, and you can get to every section easily. The budget justification can always be accessed, as well as the cumulative budget, providing you the totals of the fields. I'll check for errors at this time, and since there are no errors, I can simply close the form and unlock it. At this time, now that all the validation within the form is complete, we can use the check application button available at the top to perform any workspace level checks on this form. No errors were found, and hence we seem to be doing okay. Clicking on the preview application forms button will show you a preview of all the form data that we have filled in so far. This preview again includes preview of all the forms in the workspace up until this point. However, clicking on the form name would help you to get the preview of just that form in particular. This preview application PDF can be downloaded and routed around for review or approval processes. At this time, we can also, some of the workspaces also have the option to run agency validation. These options, the agency validation and the grantor validation and the grantor image, are currently only available for workspaces created for NIH and AHRQ opportunities. When we get to this preview grantor validation, there is a request grantor validation button which we can click on. Once we make that request, Workspace then gathers the entire data from this workspace and then sends it to the agency system in order to run any further validation that the agency might have on their side. Clicking on the refresh status will give you the list of errors which you can then view using this window here. The different form errors are displayed and can be searched and sorted using the options available on this window. You can then proceed with completing the forms by fixing any data errors that you notice. Also, the grantor image works very similarly, and in this case, Workspace collects the data, sends it to the agency system, and the agency system will in turn render an image that you can use to preview. This is most likely the image that would be used by your reviewers later on in the process. You can click on the download action available on this page to take a view at the different forms that are available, in just like how the agency would take a look at it. Again, the grantor image and the preview grantor validation tabs are currently only available for workspaces created under NIH and AHRQ opportunities. This brings us to our final step. Now that we've done all the validations on the workspace, we can now submit. Clicking on the Sign and Submit button will prompt you with a password entry, and once you provide the password, you will be presented with the confirmation page. This is very similar to the current legacy PDF confirmation page with the tracking number and date time received. Notice that the AORs are the only people that can continue to make these submissions even from Workspace. This PDF can be used for tracking purposes and saved. When we come back to the Workspace, you can notice that the edit options are disabled. Upload, reuse, and the web form options are locked at this time, and only authorized users like Workspace owners or the AOR or your EBIS point of contact can reopen the Workspace to continue making future edits. This can then be used for any additional resubmissions that need to be made from this Workspace. The Details tab on the Workspace provides you with package details and contact information of the grantor, the POC that you might want to contact in case you need it. Also, the submission that we've made earlier is provided in this list. Clicking on the Details action will show you the list of forms and the attachments that were used in this application. The download action can be used to download the zip files that the agencies would receive later on in the process. All the actions that we perform in the workspace are captured in the activity log, the who, what, and when, all of it. There are several resources that are available for Workspace, including the online question marks at every point in the Workspace. There are applicant resources under the applicant section of our website with Workspace overview showing many details. The Workspace process image guides you through the step-by-step instructions of creating the workspace and continuing with the process. The question mark icon takes you back to the online help, and the training videos are available here as well. Also on the Workspace overview page, you will notice another image, the workspace roles. When you get to this page, it talks about the different roles that are available in the workspace and the users and the super users that have access. It also includes a cheat sheet of all the actions that can be performed in a workspace and who can perform it and what type of role and access do they need. At the end of this web page, you will see a training video which goes in depth into each one of these roles. Also, Notices section is the other section under Outreach that you can use to see further details related to any Grants.gov notices. At this time, we'll switch back to our presentation where we can get to the question and answer time. And here are some rules on how to ask questions. You can either put the questions in your Q&A part or use Adobe Connect's raise hand feature and we'll call upon you. If we cannot get to your question by the end of this webinar, please email them to community@grants.gov.
Hi everybody, this is Charlie and I'll be the moderator. So I do want to encourage you, if you have any questions that are follow-up to what was covered or you have questions that weren't covered, please send those into the Q&A or the chat. So we had a few questions around registering an account and how a grant consultant could access a workspace. Could you expand on how that would work?
Okay, so at this point, I mean, as I think Charlie already answered this question online, but at this point, you need to have an account with Grants.gov. Now, what that means is you either need to be associated with a DUNS number with an organization. If your consulting company has a DUNS number, it can be that consulting company, or you need to be an individual applicant, or you can be associated with the DUNS that you're trying to help. With our November release that Charlie indicated that we'll have a blog for that later this week, it makes the whole registration process simpler. It would be very easy to create an account in Grants.gov without tying it to a DUNS or to a funding opportunity number as the individual applicant needs. But at this point, you just need an account, whichever DUNS it's with, and after you have a Grants.gov account, you can be added to anyone's workspace.
Okay. So that's currently all the questions that we have in the Q&A and the chat. We are going to go through a few questions that we received on last week's webinar, but please do submit those if you have them. So one of the questions that we received is there a way to limit the submission of an application to one user? And this is related to the roles which you summarized. So could you review those?
Yes, the only way you can submit a workspace application is to be an AOR, and if your organization is set to a standard organization using the organization profile, then the AOR either needs to be a participant of the workspace or they will need to enter the MPIN to be able to submit. But only AORs can submit. If your organization is set up as an expanded AOR, then any AOR in your organization can submit the workspace.
Okay. In Workspace, there's a button, Complete and Notify AOR. Is the Workspace or the forms locked when someone clicks that button?
The Workspace goes into a read-only mode,
Okay.
so thus they're not locked and they won't look locked, but they are read-only, and there will be no way to edit the forms unless you use the reopen button and reopen the Workspace.
Okay. Related to the lock and unlock functions, and I know you touched on this, what happens when two people attempt to access the same form at the same time?
Okay, if you are using the web form, the very first person to hit it, we will lock the form, and it will be locked, and the only person that can save that form will be the person that opened the web form and saves it, so it'll be locked. If two people download it but neither one of them locks it, then whoever is the first person to upload it will be able to upload it. After that, if the second person uploads, they'll be told that their copy is not the latest copy, and that if they want to continue, they will override existing changes. But we encourage everyone, whether you're downloading or you're doing the web form, please lock a form before you start to work on making these changes. Because if you have it locked, unless an AOR or AOR with MPIN or some type of super user overrides your lock, if you have it locked, you're the only person that can upload or save the form.
Okay.
Here is that Complete and Notify AOR button that we've talked about. When you click on the Complete and Notify AOR, the upload, reuse, and web form actions are disabled.
And we have some actual questions.
Okay. Another question that we just received is, if the PI is not going to participate, meaning do any work on the Workspace, do they need to be registered on Grants.gov?
No, if they're not going to fill out the forms using the Workspace, and they're just going to fill out the forms because someone downloaded them, sent them to them, and they filled them out and sent them back, they do not need an account on Grants.gov. But if you want them to use all the features of Workspace and edit online, I mean, if they don't have an account, they won't be able to use the new web forms, online forms. They'll have to be using the original PDF forms.
And run the validations for themselves. Once
Right.
they're in the Workspace, they can run grantor validation, they can run Workspace level validation using check application at any point, which they will not be able to do if they are working on a downloaded form.
Right, and then they won't be able to preview the whole application, including the subforms. I mean, it's an okay way to get started, not having your PIs have accounts, and that's fine to get started, but we do recommend over time to use all the features of Workspace. It is certainly better if they have an account.
Okay. We received another question. Can you demonstrate the simplest method for printing the application once it's completed?
You can click on the preview application forms to open up a PDF view of the forms. This includes all the forms. You can then download it as a PDF or print from here straight.
Now, currently that does not have the attachment data. It just has all the forms, but it has all the forms plus all the subforms. So it has more information in it than the current downloadable PDF. But we are working on an enhancement that's due out next year to allow this preview to also include any PDF attachments as well. So this functionality, this is what it is today, but it will be getting better.
Okay. The next question we received is, can the AOR lock the proposal from edits?
They will have to lock individual forms to themselves, and then none of the users will be able to edit.
Yes.
Okay. Another question we received is, if I just want to search for funding opportunities and I don't have a Grants.gov account, will I still be able to view and download the instructions and application package?
Yes.
Yeah, you'll be able to see the flat versions of the forms, and you will be able to download the instructions.
Okay. Could you expand on how reusing a form from a previously submitted workspace and how you could do that in an existing or a new workspace?
Okay. Let me get to a workspace. I can show it. Okay. Once you click on the reuse action, you'll be taken to a reuse workspace page where you can then search for any workspaces that have that form. So again, this will bring out any workspaces that this user currently have access to. It could be the same DUNS or a different DUNS, and you can then click on the preview as well as to take a look at the data inside the form. And once you feel comfortable, you can actually click on the select action in order to reuse the information from that form into the current workspace. So this is a copy from a source form into a target form, and any changes you make to either one of these forms will not affect the other after you make that change.
Okay, thank you, Kavita. So that, it looks like we received one more question. Do you need to add the AOR as a participant, or are they automatically linked to a workspace if a creator is registered with an organization?
Okay, let's go to the organization profile page, and we'll show you. If your organization is set up as a standard organization, then the AOR needs to be added as a participant. If your organization is set up as expanded AOR, then any AOR can submit without being added to the workspace. And
Okay, so that's all the questions that we've received, so that will close out the Q&A session. I do want to remind you that you can, if questions come up, you can email us at the community@grants.gov email address.
Okay, at this time we can switch back to our presentation. Here is our contact information. If you have any general questions, feedback, or concerns about Workspace, please contact us via email at community@grants.gov. But if you're having an issue with completing your Workspace application as you're applying to a federal grant, please contact the Grants.gov Support Center at the information provided here. You can connect with us on social media. You can follow us on Twitter, and there's several YouTube videos and available for training on the website. You can also subscribe to our blog, email us at community@grants.gov, and please feel free to bookmark our online user guide.
If there are no additional questions, we want to thank you for joining us for our Workspace webinar. As we mentioned, we will have subsequent sessions like these, so please stay tuned for our emails that may come out, and check our social media, as Kavita mentioned, for any additional webinar sessions that we may host. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're always happy to help.